In the many years it has existed, Smackdown has thrown out some top professional wrestling. There's been moments that cemented people as fans for life thanks to WWE's Blue brand, and anytime it is brought up, you do of course have to mention the Smackdown Six. If you know, you know, and if you don't, you missed out. It stands to reason though that in the 2 decades it's been around, you're gonna get the rough with the smooth, because that's just life. If you hang around long enough, no matter how much good there is, there's always gonna be some bad, and just to be some negative Nancy's, that's what we're gonna look at today. Brace yourself. I'm Simon from What Culture. Please do smash that subscribe button, and this is the 10 worst WWE SmackDown main events ever. Number 10, Bob Holly vs. The Big Show on January 8th, 2004. You know the rule. When Bob Holly gets brought up, we tell the story where he was asked by management how he would like to be used, to which Hardcore responded, "I should win the title and then beat everyone." What a damn hero. It seemed like the powers that be may have been swayed by this back in 2004, as he was placed into a feud with then WWE champion Brock Lesnar. Booked for the Royal Rumble, as WWE assumed that the 30-man main event was enough of a pay-per-view sell, meaning they could have more fun with the rest of the card. To get to all of this, they started to put Holly in main events on SmackDown. It's kind of fascinating to watch now as Lesnar is on commentary just being a super dick. But the real issue is this is during a time when the Big Show was a bit disinterested with wrestling. It's been well documented since that he wasn't in the best headspace, which is why he does the square root of nothing here, just stands around. Makes it even tougher for Bob as he has to work around this with a crowd who don't really care, despite it being a street fight, and to try and make you believe Holly was a genuine threat to the Beast, he won after choking the Big Show out with a chair. Sounds a lot better than it actually was. Number 9, Eddie Guerrero and the Big Show versus Kurt Angle and Luther Reigns on September 23rd, 2004. That's right, Luther Reigns. He came out of nowhere, didn't he? Much like his namesake though, WWE spent a lot of 2004 trying to make him work, mostly because he was quite big. Just what they do. If you have any kind of size, they will attempt to make you a major player in the company, and sometimes it works. Sadly, here it didn't. The problem was, rather than give him smaller dudes to throw around the ring, Luther was always placed in monster matchups that didn't work. Pairing him with Kurt Angle made sense, as even that association told fans to take him seriously, but it wasn't enough. I mean, take this match. It had 2 of the best ever, but it's still not something you should watch. That's mainly because of everything that happened after the bell had rung. For starters, it ended with a DQ, and we all know the deal with that, and then my word, alongside Mark Jindrak, the bad guys got a tranquilizer gun and shot Big Show as if he was some kind of out-of-control elephant. It puts the man down, obviously, allowing these dastardly assholes to shave his head, but what on earth? The big question is why a locker room full of baby faces and officials let this happen. Well, that's wrestling for you. Maybe they were worried they'd get tranked too. Number 8, Jinder Mahal vs. John Cena on August 15th, 2017. Well, this never stood a chance, did it? Jinder Mahal was thrown to the wolves when he was elevated to the main event from nowhere a few years ago. Was always going to wind up the hardcore fans, even though he was just doing his job. And who the hell would have turned this down? No, I don't want the opportunity of a lifetime. So it was an uphill battle, and it didn't help with matches like this. Cena vs. Mahal was okay at best, but the post-Angle story is now the stuff of legend, and not in a good way. Towards the end, Baron Corbin ran out to cash in his Money in the Bank briefcase, which was set to take him to the next level, where instead he utterly made a mess of it and got caught in a surprise roll-up and lost. The most devastating move in all of sports entertainment indeed. It didn't help anyone, which should never be the case, and just dragged Corbin into this conversation about what the hell was going on. By the time Mahal's title reign was over, nobody had benefited, given Jinder was also held back to the lower card. Great. Number 7, Kurt Angle vs. Brock Lesnar on September 18th, 2003. You just fell out of your chair, right? Don't worry, I did too. A small look into the behind the scenes here at What Culture. All of these entries are a group effort, and sometimes you gotta give a little. When it comes to this awesome Iron match, I kinda get the reasons against it. To begin, however, the good. This is brilliant in terms of action between 2 guys that took to pro wrestling like it was the easiest thing ever. I will tell you firsthand that it is not, which makes it even more impressive how talented Brock and Kurt are. So what's the spin? Well, we all know the issue with the Iron Man stipulation, and that is before we've even begun, you know when the finish is going to happen. That makes it quite tough to feature on TV, as viewers will just leave until the last 5 minutes before they tune back in. You also had commercials here which broke up the action and wanted to make sure we stayed away from the usual format where you only get a few falls. WWE went all out here and had Lesnar win 5-4. Would have been 5-5-2 if Angle had a few more seconds on the clock. The time expired as Kurt had Brock in the ankle lock, and trust me, that guy was ready to tap. Still though, look, this is so good, and I get that I've broken the list, you can just call me the Renegade. Number 6, Roman Reigns and the Usos versus Dolph Ziggler, Bobby Roode and Baron Corbin on January 31st, 2020. Man, this feels like a decade ago, so much has changed in 2020. If only we had known what was around the corner, maybe we would have appreciated live wrestling just that little bit more, but even then, this would have been a tough sell. It was just so silly. It was also suffering because the feud between Roman Reigns and Baron Corbin never seemed to stop. Even after we were told it was the last match, we had more. And because the pair kept talking about dog food, because Reigns was the big dog, it was obvious that soon somebody was going to get covered in the stuff. As it turned out, they both did. But the final blow was Roman and his cousins getting their revenge by winning this tag and then pouring it over Baron's skull. It's typical WWE booking when you go through the years, but it just didn't feel like it was an angle the current audience particularly wanted to see. It's also a bit weird as the stipulation was that Baron would have to eat the dog food, but that didn't really happen. Just had it thrown at him, but still, don't need to worry about this now because Roman is the tribal chief, which is one of WWE's best characters. It's all about the present. Number 5, Triple H versus Vince McMahon on September 16th, 1999. The 4th ever episode of SmackDown ended with Mr. McMahon standing tall as the WWE champion. Kinda. Now, this was nowhere near as bad as David Arquette or Vince Russo winning the WCW title, but it's dangerous territory to be in. The match itself is just Triple H beating up Vince before Stone Cold Steve Austin arrives to stun the champion, drag McMahon's lifeless body on top before forcing Shane McMahon to make the pin. So it's really a vehicle to carry on the Rattlesnake's momentum as opposed to anything else, and the crowd loved all of this, so you can't badmouth it too much. If it's over, it's over. But long term, it didn't help the credibility of the championship, which may sound silly, but it is important. If you want to buy into what these guys are fighting over, it has to mean something. This was one of those scenarios where a fun angle at the time had some negative effects down the line, and let's be honest, it was always going to happen. How could Vince resist? Number 4, Sheamus and Mean Gene Okerlund versus Daniel Bryan and Alberto Del Rio on April 10th, 2012. Yes, you heard that right. The best part? Mean Gene got the win. Because of course he did. This was just bizarre though, because as well as this gimmick, it was just the Irishman whooping Del Rio and Bryan's ass. It also finished when a group of legends distracted Daniel, allowing Sheamus to bro kick him into oblivion, and it really did make Bryan look like an idiot. That's how brilliant he was though. Whatever WWE threw at him, he got through to the other side. Don't get me wrong either, Mean Gene Okerlund is a hero and one of the best ever, but he didn't need to be put into positions like this. It didn't help him and there was no need. At least nobody beat him up. Number 3, The Undertaker versus Haydenreich and Paul Heyman, 2005. Another case of a non-wrestler being put in an awkward position. The real talking point here is Haydenreich. A curious wrestler, WWE was well and truly behind the man to the point he was put in a feud with The Undertaker. That doesn't just happen. This was bizarre too, as the match never ended. Halfway through, the dead man just summoned his druids in a casket, which scared Haydenreich so much he legged it. Heyman was not able to do the same, which meant he got tombstone and then rolled into said casket. I think he was dead. None of it made any sense. SmackDown then ended and the whole thing was just one big question mark. The highlight, however, is from Haydenreich, who sold the casket like he was actually going to be killed. Fair play to him. Number 2, The Great Khali versus Kane on August 17th, 2007. I didn't really get why WWE did this match at WrestleMania 23, but whatever, we did. And we did it again 4 months later on a random SmackDown though, and in the main event, I don't think anybody was keeping up with it. The point was that Khali had become the world champion and WWE wanted to have a line of monsters for him to beat. Kane was always going to be on that list. The main problem was there was no build, we'd seen it all before, and the 7 minutes that follow lacked any real kind of excitement. The great one, and I'm not talking about The Rock, got the win because that was the whole point, and soon Khali would be turned into a guy that enjoyed watching people kiss. That sounds far creepier than I meant it to be, but it does sum up the whole thing, and the Great Khali. Number 1, Kofi Kingston versus Brock Lesnar on October 4th, 2019. It hurts, doesn't it? No matter how much you love Kofi Kingston or how pleased you were for his 2019 title reign, I think deep down we all knew this could happen. It's become WWE's MO over the last decade, but still. As SmackDown debuted on Fox, WWE wanted a huge main event to keep fans riveted, and they did that with a championship match between Kofi Kingston and Brock Lesnar. I don't think anybody doubted the Beast was going to win, but even a decent back and forth with a valiant Kingston doing what he could would have been fine. But no, we're not allowed nice things. Instead, Kofi ran at Brock, got caught in the F5, and lost in seconds, and I mean that literally. 15 is the count most agree is on the money, and a 6-month run was destroyed destroyed in less time than it takes to use the loo, which is ironic because that ties into a word many would use to describe this. Know of any other SmackDown main events that I guess absolutely sucked? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Then head over to whatculture.com where you can read articles like this, follow What Culture on Twitter at WhatCultureWWE, and watch more videos here at What Culture Wrestling. My name is Simon from What Culture. I appreciate you joining me today, and hopefully I'll talk to you again very soon.